The featherweight division has been flipped on its head, with Ilia Topuria viciously KOing arguably the best featherweight champ of all time in Alex Volkanovski. Today, I'm going to be doing some matchmaking for the UFC Featherweight Division going forward after UFC 298 and UFC Mexico City with Ortega versus Rodriguez. Stay tuned to hear where I think the UFC Featherweight Division should go. I'm Wyatt, and this is Fight Society. All right, so I'm going to start off with the UFC 298 main event in Anaheim, where Ilia Topuria viciously KO'd Alex Volkanovski. Now, I can't say that I'm surprised by how this went down, but it's not how I wanted it to go, and it's not how I thought it would go. With Volkanovski coming off of a vicious KO head kick loss to Islam Makhachev just 4 months ago, I guess I should have seen it coming that somebody with big power at the weight class like Ilia Topuria could put Volk down. The way that I saw it going into the fight was that Volk was going to be able to get in and out of exchanges clean and exit the way that he tends to do and pick Ilia apart and work the clinch a little bit and some wrestling to control the fight and win by decision. That was my prediction. Obviously, that's not what happened. Volk got viciously KO'd in the second round, and I don't even know if this is something where you could question Volk's chin. He got head kicked by a 155-pounder, a big 55-pounder in Islam, and then he got slept on a clean shot right on the chin from one of the hardest hitters that the 45 division has ever seen. If you haven't, look at Ilia Topuria's knockout of Jai Herbert up at 155. So that shows you that Topuria's power carries up a weight class. So I don't want to say that Volk's chin is shot or that Volk is on the slide just yet. I think that he made a mistake taking that fight in Abu Dhabi, even though many people, including myself, I believe, said that it was a risk-free matchup because he would keep his belt at 145 even if he lost. But in hindsight, I now see that taking that fight on short notice was a huge mistake for Volk. Given what Volk has told us about his drinking on a daily basis leading up to that fight before he got the call, that makes me think that it was an even bigger mistake to take a fight against one of the most dangerous fighters on the planet in Islam on 11 days notice. Taking a fight against somebody like that when you're not even training is just a bad decision. Now, we obviously see that ended up trickling over in some ways over to this fight because Volk did look a little tentative to take a shot in that fight. And that's how Topuria pushed him back up against the fence and was able to land that flurry where he landed the knockout blow. I hope that Volk doesn't try to jump right back in there for a third fight in like less than 7 or 8 months with two bad KO losses in 4 months. I hope that he takes some time off, and even though his next fight could be for the belt, I don't think that the next 145 championship fight will include him. I think that given Ilia Topuria's star power with him being introduced at Bernabeu in Madrid and the reaction from that part of the world to his win, I think that Ilia Topuria is primed to become a big star in the 145-pound division. And I think that if they just feed Volk in a short amount of time back to Ilia again, they're just pushing Volk out the door in some ways, which I don't think they want to do. I think that there's a few different ways that Volk could go, but I don't think that a quick turnaround rematch against Ilia is in his best interest at all. He'll get killed. So looking at the rankings for the 145-pound division, you have Alex Volkanovski ranked first. I think he needs time off, probably later this year. I wouldn't even mind if he takes the rest of the year off. I think he seriously needs time off, especially at his age with 2 KO losses. So I have him sitting out, potentially fighting a down in the rankings 100% because I don't want him to go up and fight Ilia right away at least. I think he should go down. Maybe a rematch with Yair or Ortega or somebody like Movsar. I think maybe Ortega or Movsar would probably be the best bet. Someone that doesn't have big KO power that would check his chin again. But I could see that given these rankings, you have Max Holloway doing the BMF fight with Gaethje at 155, which is proven to be just like a completely pointless fight at this point. I know that they just did it for 300. And if 300 really wasn't a thing, then, or if it was any other pay-per-view, then Holloway and Gaethje wouldn't have been made. It's just the fan pressure that was put on the organization for 300. So I think that Max, if he wins, he's probably a number one contender at 55. If he wins in a more impressive fashion than the winner of Arman Sarukian and Charles Oliveira, then I think that he'll go on to fight Islam next. But I think that Justin Gaethje's probably going to win that fight. I think my prediction could change, but I think that fight's going to go to Justin Gaethje, and that's going to end up with Max Holloway back at 45. Then ranked below him, you're going to have it's Yair Rodriguez right now, but him and Brian Ortega are going to switch places at least, or Yair could drop a little bit more. But Brian Ortega is probably going to be ranked third come the rankings tomorrow when they put out the rankings. So I don't want to see Brian Ortega fight Ilia Topuria. I swear he would kill him. I mean, Brian Ortega looked like shit on the feet. He got dropped twice in the first round against Yair, I think. So I definitely don't want to see Brian Ortega get killed by Ilia, but I could see that fight happening. And besides that, you have Movsar, who's undefeated, but I don't think the UFC even wants him to sniff a title shot because it's all decision. He's 8-0 in the UFC with all decisions, and we know how Dana feels about guys that don't finish fights. And then below that, you have Arnold Allen, who's coming off of a loss. You have Josh Emmett, who is 1-2 in his last 3. And then you have Calvin Kattar booked. And then everyone else after that is too low to be in a title talk. Even 6, 7, and 8 is too low. So if you're looking at this top 5, you have Volk taking the rest of the year off. You have Max at 55 and potentially coming off of a loss to Gaethje when he returns to 45. Then you have Yair for now, but he just came off a loss. And then you have Brian Ortega. So I think that out of those, and Movsar. So I would say out of those people, the most likely to get a title shot against Ilia is going to be Brian Ortega or Movsar. But I definitely see Sean O'Malley moving up to 45 to fight Ilia if he beats Chito Vera at 299, because Sean O'Malley has talked about his weight cut to 35 being really tough. And if I remember correctly, he said that he wanted to win the belt, defend once, and move up to 45. And even if he doesn't vacate, it's a big fight where they can put Ilia and Sean O'Malley together, probably their two biggest young stars. And if Sean O'Malley loses, he just goes back down to 35 and still has his belt. And it's a big fight either way, champ versus champ fight, which I'm not really thrilled about. I'm kind of tired of these. I'm pretty tired of these champ versus champ fights, especially when guys don't have like any defenses and they're already talking about moving up. Like Drickus was talking about moving up already. That's not going to happen, but I'm pretty tired of that. I also think that over here, I think that Aljamain Sterling with a win could be in the talks at 145, but I think that he probably gets smoked by Ilia too. Maybe this is just recency bias from me on Ilia, but right now I think the only person that gives him a significant challenge is Max Holloway with the boxing, and I wish that Max Holloway would not have been booked to fight Justin Gaethje, because that's the fight that I think most people want to see right now. But we're here now. So what I think is going to happen is Ilia is going to fight Brian Ortega or Sean O'Malley if Sean O'Malley beats Chito Vera. And so there's that. Volk, I think, needs to fight down in the rankings against someone that's not going to put his lights out. I would put him against a Movsar or a Brian Ortega. And Max Holloway, I think, is going to return to 45, and he might go straight into a title shot, even coming off a loss from Gaethje. Depending on the damage, he might not be able to fight for a little while. Yair is definitely going to fight down in the rankings. And then Movsar is probably going to get put up against like a Josh Emmett, maybe a Yair, maybe Ortega. If they do Sean O'Malley and Ilia, then I think Brian Ortega and Movsar are going to fight. And then, but if Brian Ortega gets the title shot, then I think they're going to do Movsar versus like the winner of Calvin Kattar and Aljo in a number one contenders fight. And I think Aljo's going to beat Calvin Kattar. So I could see Aljo being in a title fight at 45 with like 2 wins at 45. The Calvin Kattar fight and then maybe one more. That's going to be my official predictions for this is Ilia is going to fight Brian Ortega or Sean O'Malley. Volk is probably going to fight Brian Ortega or Movsar. Yair going to fight down in the rankings, and Max Holloway is probably going to return to the division after 300. But let me know what you guys think. I'm really curious. What do you guys think about Volk's career? Do you think he's about to head down the Tony Ferguson path? MMA Guru just did a really good video breaking down the potential paths for Volk going forward. And I agree with him that going straight into a rematch with Ilia is a really bad idea. And so this is my final layout right here. It's going to be Ilia versus O'Malley or Ilia versus Ortega. And then Ortega is going to either fight for the belt if they don't do O'Malley. And then if he doesn't get that title fight, he's going to probably fight Movsar. And that's how I think it probably plays out. But we're getting to this point where a lot of those top guys have fought each other because, I mean, except for the champ Ilia, obviously, but Volk has beat Max Holloway 3 times, and then he's already beat Yair. He's already beat Brian Ortega. And then everybody else is ranked too low or coming off of a loss. So, and I know that they don't want Movsar to sniff a title shot, but my prediction is that it's going to be Ilia and O'Malley or Ilia and Ortega. And then probably if Ortega doesn't get the title shot, then it'll probably be Ortega versus Evloev, and potentially Aljo if he beats Calvin Kattar, getting in there with an Ortega or a Movsar. But let me know what you guys think. I want to see what you guys think in the comments. Who should Ilia fight next? Who should Volk fight next? Because Volk has to play the rest of his career very carefully, given these last 2 knockouts and his age as well. Being 35 years old, he'll be closer to 36 when he returns. I think we're on the back end of Volk for sure. I think Volk's got less than 2 years left. But I want to know what you guys think. So drop a comment. Let me know who you want Ilia to fight. Let me know who you want Volk to fight. And would you rather see Ilia versus Ortega, or would you rather see Ilia versus Sean O'Malley? And let me know who you think wins those fights. See ya. If you like this video and you want more content just like this, click that subscribe button down below. If you want more content from me, go check out my weekly comedy podcast, the Hissyfit podcast, and go check out my personal channel, Wyatt's World. Go watch this suggested video, and I'll see you next time.